All right, welcome back. This is James Black with the Canadian Securities Exchange with another episode of the Summit on Responsible Investment podcast, again, in association with the upcoming Summit on Responsible Investment on June 5th in Kelowna. And today I am very pleased to be joined by an old friend, Ross Orr at BacTech Environmental Corporation, listed on the CSE under the symbol BAC. Thanks for joining us today again, Ross. I know you've been on the show a few times. How are things?
Good morning, James. Things are progressing. It's like every CEO would tell you. I think we're in a good space right now, and looking forward to your upcoming conference in June in Kelowna as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. And for anyone watching this after the fact, there's going to be a playlist full of Summit on Responsible Investment or SoRI 2025 content on CSE's YouTube channel. So just look below if you want more of this good stuff. So to jump into it, Ross, let's just start from the beginning again for those who may not be super familiar with BacTech. What is your business model? And maybe if you can just touch on how it delivers both an environmental impact, but also it's a real business. It's got a true bottom line and it's got financial returns. It's not just a science experiment, but this is something I want you to share more about this environmental impact, but also the real business results of what you guys do at BacTech.
Well, the simplest way to explain it is our bugs eat rocks. That's our logo we stick on our booth whenever we go to a conference. And it definitely is a showstopper. People stop and say, what does that mean? And in this instance, we're using bioleaching. So bacteria attacking sulfide minerals, sort of breaking up the mortar that holds a brick wall together. And from that, of course, we can stabilize any deleterious elements that are in the concentrates, such as arsenic. We produce a ferric arsenate as a byproduct. So we're one of the only companies out there that literally goes, looking for arsenic. We usually pass the miners going the other way or going, it's pyrrhotite, don't touch it. So effectively, what we've done is in the first instance is we've identified an area in Ecuador where arsenic is a huge issue, and they are punished punitively by the Chinese, who pay 45 to 50 cents on the dollar for the gold values. We're going to build a plant locally and keep all that value in country as opposed to shipping it overseas. So you get an economic win, and you also get a win with the arsenic, because right now the arsenic's ending up in the rivers, through tailings, et cetera.
It's incredible to think that is what happens today, and the solution is pretty obvious from an environmental impact perspective. But yeah, tell me a bit more about the model of the business. You're dealing with the tailings with the bioleaching solution.
No, actually, this is actual concentrate from about 100 different mines that operate in this probably about 100-kilometer long belt down in the southwestern part of the country. So we're close. We're close to Guayaquil. So we can fly our gold out. There's been some issues, of course, politically, I guess, or socially in Ecuador with narco problems. You have to talk about these things because they're real. But at the same time, we're hoping that President Noboa is taking a step to get tougher with these people. Most of the problems are along the coast because they're trying to get the drugs out of the country through the ports. The area that we're in is 100% support from the local community. These people are going to be paid a lot more money than they're making now picking cocoa pods. I mean, that's what we have. We have a 100-acre farm filled with cocoa trees. So what we did was we left the guys there that were working on the farm and said, look, you deal with these trees. I don't need 800 acres of dead trees. You look after it, and you can sell the product and keep the money for yourselves. And so that was obviously a very positive side, because they all thought they were going to be sacked after we took over the property. The issues that we deal with, of course, in addition to the arsenic, is we've told the miners that we will not accept any material that's been pre-treated with cyanide or mercury, which is, again, mercury, we all know, is a huge problem especially in small mining situations. And of course, we're dealing with concentrates here, so it's pretty tough to do anything to a concentrate before it arrives on our doorstep. But it is sort of a mandate that we just say to them, we will not take your material if it's got those two elements present. So that's part of the ESG side, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you mentioned the social aspect. You're obviously employing locally and providing valuable jobs to those who are in the local area. So that makes it even better from that perspective.
Yeah, we'll employ 200 people during the construction phase. And,
oh, wow.
And then 50 people full time. And that's phase one. And then phase 2 will literally quadruple the size of the plant. So again, we'll probably have the 200 guys back again for work, people, I should say, back working. And then our full-time staff, I'm sure, will be well over 100 people.
Right. And so you're working with active mines. These are, or is this concentrate that's been sitting around for years? Like is it legacy or is it?
These are active mines. Yeah.
Okay.
Every day, 250 tons of concentrate. Most of it arsenopyrite goes out to Guayaquil or to Machala to the coast and gets shipped to China. So we don't think they can compete with us because A, they're paying very poorly. B, they pay very poorly in time. A lot of friction between the miners and the Chinese. At the same time, they've got to pay an export tax. They've got to ship it halfway around the world, and then they've got to do an import tax. So we think we can soundly win the business.
Right. Now you mentioned Ecuador. When you're looking at mine selection, you're working with partners in different countries. What sort of your markers for what you want to see and how you want to select, customers? Not saying that you get all the choice, but I got to think that there's an ideal makeup here for who you want to work with and how you want to do business.
Yeah, I would say the easiest business for us, of course, would be just buying concentrates. And so right behind Ecuador, you've got Peru. I met a miner a couple of years ago, and this is before the price of gold took off. He had a ton of his rock in his mine was worth $600, and he was getting $85 a ton because he had a lot of arsenic. So that's probably the number one marker for us: is go to where the low-hanging fruit is, which is the arsenic issues. Imagine being paid 15% for your product. And I asked the guy, why are you in business? He says, because I have to feed my family. I mean, I have to take what I get. So when I sort of said, well, we could probably pay you 50, it just about blew his head off. He calls us a lot.
Well, and back to your business model. So you're buying the concentrate, you're just taking it off their hands, and then you guys are applying the technology to pull out the gold. Okay.
There's a gold silver doré that will then be sold, and that's when it's out of our hands.
Right. I'm just thinking back to a competitive advantage. You maybe just talk a bit more about the technology and how, I'm sure you've seen the competitive landscape around metals remediation globally, but how does yours differentiate? How do you think this could scale, but also be easily distinguished against others who are in the space? Assuming you're not the only one.
I would say, well, no, we're not, but there's other technologies out there, but what Bioleaching has is the ability to start small, CapEx wise. And then of course, because the technology is modular and you don't interfere with the original plant that you've set up, which is what we're doing in Ecuador, right? We're building a 50 ton a day plant, and then we'll add 200 tons a day as phase 2. Phase 1 is being set up around the five largest mines in the area that actually fill up that 50 to 55 tons a day for concentrates. The other 95 mines will produce the balance. So that's effectively what we're doing. And so what we do is we'll pay them 85% of the value of an on-site assay that we'll do at our plant. And then we'll have that checked. I'm looking at a company called Cold Block right now. It's Canadian technology for a rapid assay. Miners don't want to sit around for 10 hours waiting for you to give them the results. So they want to go back and go back to mining. So we think this will really speed up the process and speed up the payments as well, which is a big problem that they have right now.
Right. And maybe for those watching, just describe what an assay is, because I've got a basic understanding, but those watching may not know exactly what assay means.
So this material comes in big white sacks, one ton sacks. They stick literally a pipe into that, pull it out, and the material that's inside that pipe then goes to the lab to determine what the grade of the gold is and the silver is in that particular sample. It's just because you put it in one place doesn't mean it's the same for the whole thing. That's why we send it away for a third party to confirm the final payment, so to speak, the last 15%.
Yeah, no, that's a great description. Now, again, just to summarize, you've got this technology. It's used on these concentrates that you're taking from these arsenic-rich mining results, and I guess this feedstock has to where do you put everything after? That's kind of my question. It's like, after you've gone through the concentrate, where does the rest of that go? Where does all the material go?
So what we produce is that we precipitate out a ferric arsenate, which is 3 iron to 1 arsenic. And it comes with the limestone that we add to raise the pH in the tank. So it comes out as a gypsum. Theoretically, you could make a wall board out of it. I don't think anybody wants arsenic in their walls, but so what we do is we dry stack it. We dewater it and then dry stack it and cover it eventually. But it's not, the only way it's going to re-energize itself is somebody pours acid all over it. And let's hope there aren't people out there. But it's interesting because we've now gone to a second phase on our technology, which was the patent that we filed last month in April, that literally doesn't jive with the current technology, because we use iron to marry arsenic. In the new patent, we use iron to make magnetite, direct, like literally magnetite that can go right into a steel mill. So I don't know whether we're going to be able to meld the two together, but it gives us 2 different markets to go after.
Just second last question here. Looking forward. So obviously public company, there's things you can and can't say, but maybe just touch on some of the projects or milestones you're working towards that people watching the company should be aware of.
Well, the biggest one, of course, was the April the 7th. We filed a patent, global patent, on bioleaching for pyrrhotite. And pyrrhotite, of course, is a very nasty sulfide mineral that is in the Sudbury Basin. There's anywhere between 80 and 100 million tons of this stuff. I say nasty because if you leave it out in the open, it'll start to smolder. It's trying to oxidize itself so aggressively. So what we've done here is, so Inco/Vale for 100 years have been separating the pyrrhotite from the pentlandite, which is the really good stuff, and sending it directly into the tailings. A lot of times underwater, filling up lakes to keep the oxygen away. What Paul Miller and the team at Merarco with Dr. Nadia Mikuchik have figured out is, once everything gets bioleached and goes into solution, we can actually produce magnetite, okay, a pure form of iron that goes into steelmaking. And because we use ammonia in the process, that ammonia is literally what steals the sulfur away from the iron, and that becomes an organic fertilizer. So if you try to just process the nickel, copper, cobalt that are in the tailings, you'd lose money. If you include this technology where you're actually taking 2 liabilities and turning them into a profit center, those 2 things generate about 75% of the revenue coming out of that rock, as opposed to only 25% for the base metals. So you're taking a sub-economic problem and you're turning it into a profit center. It's mind-boggling when you think about it.
It's almost the definition of sustainability, and it's totally in action, right?
That circle, right? It's everything goes around. So we call it the zero waste technology. I don't think that we're probably the first people to coin that phrase, but it's the easiest thing that we can say to remember. It's like our bugs eat rocks. It's just a statement. So what's interesting though, if you have an existing mine today, you could actually put one of these circuits on the back end of your existing mine and produce no tailings. Now tell me that isn't any good.
No, that's actually exciting. I think that's sort of the promise of what we're trying to work towards here. Is a world where we can have mining without sort of the negative outcome of it, which is, you mentioned, these tailing ponds, these rivers full of these chemicals that hurt people. And
think about permitting a new mine.
Yeah,
let's say you've got this marginal nickel mine. The 0.8% nickel, maybe some copper and cobalt, which is actually the makeup of the Sudbury tailings. And you try to finance it, and people say, you know what, it's just too skinny. There isn't enough meat on the bone. And now you say, well, what if I included these 2 products? And by the way, there's not going to be any tailings that go out the back door. I would think that those projects will get developed. We actually could be long-term driving the price of nickel down, I guess, effectively, if everybody has to do that. But that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, and it's a different topic. It's a bigger topic as to who's going to actually propagate and promote these types of technologies, or those who just continue to do it the old way, whether the market will respect the new way over the old way, even if there's maybe more of a cost, or who knows.
We're actually hearing from governments since we announced that, believe it or not, intrigued. You got to think that with all of the tailings sitting around in the United States, forget Greenland, you can basically get this stuff right in your backyard. I mean, because we can recover rare earths. It's once things are into solution, the game changes, and there's selective ways to remove selected elements.
Okay, Ross. So actually, my last question before we sign off today is just for anyone who's trying to evaluate opportunities as an investor in the clean tech or green tech or economic sustainability space sustainability space. Sorry. What are some of the hallmarks that you think they should look for, and to define what's real and what isn't? And just from your own perspective, I mean, your own project is a great example, but I'm just curious if you have any thoughts about that.
Well, having a healthy balance sheet helps because, as I discussed with you earlier, the $20 million we're trying to raise for Ecuador, we really don't have much that we can offer in the way of security for it. And it should, if people really want this to happen, this shouldn't be such a big issue. But apparently, bankers are still bankers at the end of the day, right? So we sort of shifted our focus more towards family offices, where there's a little bit more of a punting factor involved in the process. And do we have to give up equity in the project? Sure, but that's just part of life. So I think you have to be pliable. You have to sort of change your process as you're going through and getting hit with roadblocks and stepping to the right and hopefully progressing on. Like you mentioned, the greenwashing and all that, it's still out there. The reality is, do you think this company, not just us, but any company in the space, can actually produce a profit or a project and a profit legitimately? I mean, that's what it boils down to. Mining especially has very, very, very long acceptance of technology. So you have to also decide, if I'm going to get behind this new technology, am I prepared to wait 10 years for its application? Because everybody in mining says the same thing. If Harry builds one, come and see me after you're done. I don't want to be the guy to do it because my job's on the line, right? And that's the reality, Here, see that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, you don't want to be, no one ever wants to be the guinea pig, so to speak.
Exactly.
Yeah, and your technology has been, almost 30 years going now, right? 1997, I think I read.
Don't remind me.
Yeah, well, it's a credit to you and your commitment to rolling this out, and the fact that it's being used globally now is incredible. So I think on that note, Ross, I'm gonna leave it there. But thanks again for your time, and for those watching. Again, this is part of the CSE Summit on Responsible Investment, also part of the CSE's podcast. Ross Orr, President and CEO of BacTech Environmental Corporation, listed on the Canadian Securities Exchange under the symbol BAC. Ross, best of luck to you. Thanks so much for joining us today, and I'm looking forward to our next conversation.
Yeah, we'll see you in June.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, thanks a lot.